All right, the 100. This is episodes 1 and 3 because I watched them kind of back to back. They both kind of dealt with the same characters. I watched them out of order because I watched the second episode thinking it was the beginning episode and it wasn't. And I had to go back. So uh, we're back to the story of Clark, and she's still grieving for her mom and the way that her mom she had to end her mom because her mom had the other person inside of her, which what I didn't understand about the way that happened was when they spaced them, they could have literally retrieved the chips from their bodies once they're in space, and then use that as leverage against the bad guy. But I think Russell is the leader. So now there's 3 or 4 different groups of people that are on the surface of this planet, this moon, where they're at. I think it's called Alpha or Beta, where the anomaly keeps happening, and they have a nuclear. This episode is mainly about she's still grieving. The Russell guy, she talks to him. He doesn't want to live anymore, but no one's willing to kill him because they're gonna have a trial and then burn him at the stake, which is apparently what they would do in this society. So yeah, the tribes of people. You have the people who still believe he's a god, that group. Then you have the group that all primes must die, I guess, to bring about the new society that they want. And then you have the group of the criminals that they unfroze from because there were 100 or 200 of them. I'd have to look up the exact number that were still on the ship in orbit, that were in suspended animation, and they froze 24 of them. But one of them, left because she was pregnant, went through the portal or the anomaly, excuse me. So that would leave 23, and we only see 5 or 6 of them, I think. But this show definitely has a lot of extras, so they're really good at using a lot of different characters from the back, and actors playing a lot of multiple roles, which is impressive. But so she's grieving. There's the group that wants to see him put on trial and ended. There's the group that wants to save him, and then there's the group again that's indifferent because they're just they're seen as criminals, but they've done their time. Now they want to build a place for their own in their own compound. Oh, and then you have the 2 that were promised eternal life or whatever, their backup chips. So they got them and had the blood treatment. But they're the people that believe primes are gods still believe that they are those 2 are 2 of their gods. So you have all these conflicting, basically, societies going on at once. And in the midst of all this, we didn't know until this episode where the evil commander uploaded himself to. Apparently, he uploaded himself somehow into Russell's chip. So he, again, Russell doesn't want to live anymore. So I think he's trying to goad Clark into killing him, and she punches him in the face, sets his palace on fire. Because he goads her. He's like, "Oh, I still have." Before that happens, he's like, "Still, I have this of your mom's, and you should have it." And it's like her mom's. That pissed her off because he did that on purpose, right? So she punches him and she's beating him. And I think at that point he just gives up, and then the evil commander, of course, takes over. And so he gets out of there. She leads him out. They're gonna burn him alive later and have a trial, but they tell him that they're like, "You got till sundown, and then we're having this trial and we're burning you." Which for the evil commander, he's like, "Oh, now I know how much time I have. I can plan." So begins manipulating events and planning to how he can, not get killed because he's very tactically intelligent. Uh, and he doesn't care who stands in his way to do that. So it doesn't look good for what's left of the human race. But again, we don't know the section of people or group of people that's in the anomaly. Is the anomaly, that sends people into the past or the future? We don't know. So again, he manipulates events for one of his loyal members to come after him. They to allow him to talk before they, I'm gonna need to be allowed to talk my people down. So he starts giving the good speech, right? Like, violence is not the way. This is not the answer. This will be peaceful. And then he's manipulated events to where one of his people is going to come and shoot him, and which he does, right? Which is not a fatal shot. It's just like a wounding shot. But then of course his followers go crazy, and the people wanting to kill him go crazy, and it's a big situation. This is the day after the big palace burnt down. It's just chaos. So by the end of the episode, he's manipulated events to where if he dies, he's going to be seen as a martyr. So he's pretty much safe, at least temporarily, from being killed. Well, somewhat. And then the nuclear, sometime earlier in the day, the nuclear reactor started, the control rods wouldn't re-enter properly. So the temperature was rising on the nuclear reactor, the one that powers where the city. So of course, instead of abandoning the city, there's 2 engineers in there working, and they go in there to try to fix it and shut themselves in and immediately die of radiation. Well, they're in there for like, I don't know, not that long, 5 to 10 minutes, and they're gone. And then Raven finds out about it because the temperature just keeps rising, and power keeps shutting off. They have to be manually reinserted to try to get the reactor to shut down. They try to get members of one crew to come in there, but then they're honest with the members of one crew and tell them that they don't have a commander anymore. So they're like, well, we're not obeying anything that you have to say. We don't have a commander. You're not our commander. So they just all walk off. So she has to go to convince 4 of the now 23 of them that have been unfrozen, the criminals. They're welders, the ones that are good at fixing things, to come with her to fix it. And she says, it's not dangerous. We just need your help. She promises a bunch of, I forget what he says. I think he says, I want an unending supply of hooch or something like that to drink. Jet juice. Forget what he calls it. So she's like, sure. Okay. So they go in there, but she knows it's dangerous. She's not letting them know how dangerous it is. And she helping her is, of course, the 2 ones that supposedly have eternal life because they can move their chips into their memory backed up into chips. And they're helping her. So they figure out they only have 60 seconds where they can run in there. Not a lot of time. So run in there. I think it's 60 seconds. Run in there, try to reinsert the control rods and get the heck out of there. Meanwhile, steam, which is giving off radiation, needs to be welded by the other team. So, but they have a blood treatment, so they can resist more radiation than normal. They go in there. The girl goes in first. He's watching through the window, and he's like yelling at her, get it done, get it done, get it done. She barely gets done in time, comes out, makes her take the shower. They're like throwing up from temporary radiation sickness, but the radiation is higher than they planned for. So the 4 guys that were in there working, they lie to them and tell them, well, Raven lies to them and tell them it's just the xenon gas. It's a byproduct. That's why you're throwing up. it's just causing disorientation. Just get the job done and we'll be okay. But she's lying to him, and this episode was really good. It reminded me of decisions Clark has had to make in the past that were life or death decisions for people, knowing that you have to make that call for their lives. But she lied to him about it. Yes, they had to get the job done or they would all die. But she didn't, give him that option or that choice. She sent the other dude in there, and he was basically talking him through it. And I think so. He was talking to that one guy before that guy passed away, helping him get the job done. And he was talking about like his life of crime and what he had gone through. And he mentions like the bad things that he had done. And he says, well, this will help you make up for it. And then he gives a poignant response. And he like turns to him and says, there's no making up for it. Which kind of implying, the bad choices you make, if they're bad enough, there's really nothing you can do to make up for that. And so it's very, it was a good emotional episode. That was the dialogue was written very well, and it was, and then you see them, pass away later in the episode after that. All those guys, except for the Eternal One who makes it out after helping weld everything. But you could see the emotions on his face because I think he's trying to atone for decisions he's made in the past. And this guy, knowing that he's not going to make it, still couldn't believe he could atone for his past. So it was very good emotionally, very good story-wise. It's again, it's one of my favorite shows. It's just, man, it's so violent. They do not shy away from the violence or from showing it. So that's all I got on this episode, or those two episodes, I should say. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. I'll talk to you.